Good evening and welcome to Athens City Council. It's Monday, October 17th at 7 p.m. We are in regular session tonight. I might make an announcement, though you usually see our agenda on the screen behind us. We are having technical difficulties with the company that provides support for us, the city, and that we have hopes of having it fixed in a few days. And so the viewing of the city council meeting will only be available via YouTube tonight, and you can go to the City of Athens website to call up the agenda if you need to do that. And I will try and read slowly enough and carefully enough that you'll all be able to understand the words that we're speaking. We're going to lead off right now first before we start the official meeting with another official meeting, and that's a public hearing for the Madison Heights rezoning. You may recall that we have had this come before our City Council Committee, and prior to that it came to the Athens City Planning Commission for review. It's basically requesting a rezoning of parcels A and B from an R1, that's Residence 1, to a Residence 2 that allows for 1 to 2 family development. And Councilmember Sarah Grace will lead us off with a little bit of background information, and then we'll open it up to see if there are any comments from council members, but also our audience. That's the purpose for our public meeting, to see if there are any concerns or questions. So, Councilmember Grace.
Thank you, President Nisley. And you covered most of the critical information, and that is this is an issue that came before the city. And we discussed it in committee as it was a recommendation that this rezoning on Madison Avenue be approved. And it is specifically some parcels that would be rezoned from allowing just a single family dwelling per parcel to allowing either a 1 or 2 family dwelling. And this is something that is, I believe, consistent with the neighborhood and is an appropriate use and would be beneficial to the city. Are there questions from members of council?
Just one simple one, and if it's in order, could I direct it to Mr. Soul, the developer, please?
Yes, I was going to say that we do have someone here who is available to speak to this issue. If you please come to the podium to introduce yourself.
I've known Mr. Soul for many, many, many years, and very diligent and well-respected developer in town. With supply chain dynamics that we face today in the construction industry, assuming council votes in favor of this, do you have any idea of a timeline when we might see completion of the project and residents able to move into some badly needed housing?
Good question. Don't have a specific answer for you. I guess we're trying to get through this phase of the process. I think if things go well, hopefully within the year, we're going to try to get, you're absolutely right. I've been doing this for over 40 years, and I've always been relatively confident with knowing kind of where the bus is going before it leaves the station as it relates to labor and materials. So it is a challenging time. We're going to take a real hard look at it once we get it approved and, hopefully make the numbers work, but that's our intention.
Great, thank you very much.
Are there questions from other members of council? Administration? No. Any comments or questions? Would you like to make any other statement about this project while you're here at the podium?
I think we pretty well went over everything with the Planning Commission, and obviously I've been here and with prior concepts throughout the years. I really think this is the perfect fit for the property after really looking at it hard. I think you're all aware years ago I had approval here for building a 22-unit condominium building on that property. So this is certainly a kinder and gentler application for the property, and the 2 duplexes we've built, I believe, have complemented that corner. Everything has gone well with the clientele. I think we're fitting a niche and a need with a lot of young professionals that are looking for a place to live. And I think these two parcels will kind of really tie the property together and will be I think it's just a good fit. And I think it's, certainly in keeping with the comprehensive plan as you mentioned about, providing affordable housing choices. I could go on and on, but that's.
That sounds good.
fine.
Thank you very much.
Succinct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. If there are no other comments or questions from audience members, then we will consider the public hearing closed at 7:07 PM. We'll now start our regular business meeting, the first item of business being establishing the quorum, and all members of council are present. Next item of business is disposition of the minutes for the regular session on September 19th and the special session held on September 26th. If I could have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second for approval of the minutes of council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion is approved and the minutes are approved. The motion carries and the minutes are approved. We next have communications. And I do believe we have received several comments about our new bright LED lights. Approximately 700 of them in the city are being replaced. The older lights are being replaced with newer, brighter LED lights, more efficient, hopefully some cost savings. And if I understand right, we also have the capability of even changing perhaps the wattage or the brightness of them. And so I know that we, through our city website, have received a number of queries about extra bright lights in different places. And so I know our Public Works office is working with AEP right now to coordinate the comments and concerns about that. Yes.
So to
Councilmember
that
Swain.
end, so the public knows, what is the process? Because you're right, this is one of the two things I wanted to bring up in communications today. I've been inundated with comments starting last Tuesday. What is the process for residents notifying what entity, whether or not to take a look at these lights and dim them? I talked with Chief Pyle, and he said they can be taken down by 40%. And it's all done electronically. No one has to climb a pole to do this.
As I understand, I spoke with Terry Workman in the Public Works office today, and she's been instructed, and Andrew, as Deputy Service Safety Director, you may have some updates too, but she was instructed by Service Safety Director Stone to work with AEP about this. And so my first response would be, you've got a handy, if I can borrow Councilmember Grace's phone, you've got a handy app on your iPhone, and it's called See-Click Fix. I think you download the app by going to CitySource. That's probably it. You can take a picture so you have the exact location and the address, and you can report it to the city. And that's clear, I think, at this point, that's clearly the most efficient way, because it's all going to come to the Public Works office then, and they were in fact coordinating multiple responses today that they have received about the bright lights. So, other things to add, Mayor or Service Safety?
I think you hit it on the head. You can go
Okay.
to, Google Play, or you can go to the Apple App Store and download the Athens, Ohio CitySource app and use that and send it to Engineering and Public Works, and then we'll work through them to make sure AEP knows which light. They're actually dimmable down to 10%. It's amazing and AEP can do it. Snap their fingers to where they can get these things changed. They are bright. I did receive a call from a resident who lives on East State Street and initially said, these things are really bright, but after I sat and looked at it, it's directional to where it's bright, but it's bright on the city street, not necessarily bright in my backyard or in my front yard or whatever. So these are going to really be a benefit to our community. They're going to be a benefit in terms of the cost, because they're LED, and they're going to really drive down the cost, because the sodium vapor, high pressure sodium lamps are extremely inefficient and extremely costly in terms of the metered rates that we have at those poles.
Thank you. Other communications, Councilmember Reisner.
I just had a question for the mayor. Maybe you don't know this or not, but watts is just a measure of power. It has nothing to do really with illumination. So I guess my question is there a significant difference between the high pressure sodium illumination and illums versus LEDs?
As I've been told from AEP, the lumens is the same. It's just that the color spectrum has changed to where it's more to the blue scale end
Okay,
of the
so
spectrum, as opposed to the red end of the spectrum, which is what gives those high-pressure sodium lamps their kind of orange, rosy glow to them. So it's a different area on the spectrum. But you're right, the lumens for these lamps are all the same. And the wattage is the same too, relatively speaking. You know, the wattage for an LED is very different than the wattage use from an energy standpoint in comparison to an incandescent bulb or these high-pressure sodium lamps.
Any other communications that we have tonight? Councilmember Swank?
Yes,
And then Councilmember Crowell.
The second one started late Thursday afternoon and really exploded on Friday, emails, phone calls, and the like. Now that the entrance ramp to 33 West and 50 East coming off of Stimson Avenue is closed, there's essentially only one exit to anyone going east of town. And it has put a tremendous amount of traffic, one into the Near East Side neighborhood. And if you happen to be out on East State Street, it reminds me of East State Street when we only had 2 lanes of traffic. Seen it backed up all the way to the Village Bakery and beyond. First question is, do we have any idea when that project will complete so that the exit or entrance ramp will be opened again? And secondly, in the interim, is it possible that we can look at some signage to direct people to the proper outlet, being East State Street rather than on May and Shannon and those streets that cut through the Near East Side?
Yeah, if there's a problem with even neighborhood cut through, you know, we can certainly address that with ODOT. It is an ODOT project, it's not a City of Athens project. In terms of the timing, as I understand it, the total project is 18 months from beginning to end. So there will be several different changes to the detour configuration along the 33, 32, 50 project that's going on. And so we've got it on the city's website, I believe, or we can put it in heavy rotation to where, you know, we're pointing to that to alert individuals as changes occur. Most recently, I came back from Fort Collins and noticed, well, the pattern had changed once again. And I think it's because they got a lot of the asphalt paving work done on that 50 on-ramp to go out to the east side of the city and beyond. So, but in terms of specific phases, there's 6 total phases to the project, and I can make sure that I can get that to you. And if there is an issue with stacking that we're seeing, we can certainly address that with ODOT.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Crowell?
Thank you, President Isley. The City of Athens Environment and Sustainability Commission would like the public to know that there is an opening on the commission. We have one opening for a city resident. The commission has a mixture of city residents and is allowed to have 3 non-residents of the City of Athens on the commission. Those 3 spots are filled, but we do have an open spot for a city resident. And if you are interested, you can contact the city with your resume to be considered for that position. Thank you, President Isley.
Thank you. Any other communications
Just-
from council members? Councilmember Spielness?
Yeah, just one small thing. The Pedestrian Accessibility Committee is going to be making a presentation next Monday, so I invite everyone to take a listen and pay attention, because there's been a lot of work and there's a lot of exciting things going on, so that's it.
Thank you. We'll turn now to reports and communications from other elected officials. Law Director Eliason. Mayor Patterson.
I have several items tonight, President Isley, if I may. First of all, I just want to recognize receipt of the Athenians for Bodily Autonomy email that I received recently. I received it on Sunday at 10 a.m., and I believe there are several members who want to speak to that tonight. Speaking of vacancies, we have several vacancies on other boards and commissions to which I appoint individuals. Most importantly, we have 3 at-large vacancies on the Joint Police Advisory Council that need to be filled. So just getting that out there. We also have a vacancy on the Shade Tree Commission for an alternate on the Shade Tree Commission. So just getting that out there for people. And then I have several other vacancies, but they're all basically handled through those boards and commissions. Commission on Disabilities has 3. They usually vet people and send their slate to me. The Municipal Arts Commission has 4 vacancies. And the Rec Advisory Board, which also sends me a slate of candidates, has 2 vacancies. And unfortunately, the current chair of the board has sent in a letter of resignation. So Brandon Thompson, who's done an outstanding job as the chair for the Athens Rec Advisory Board, has stepped down, so we'll be looking for a replacement there as well. I mentioned this to council last week, or a couple weeks ago. I want to kind of reiterate this, and this being the our Power Clean Futures Ohio, the report card that we received. I know I mentioned to council that we were among the lowest in the state. We're actually among the lowest in the nation, and let me just give you some numbers when it comes to our city's output per capita, which for us is 3.5 metric tons per capita, which outperforms the national and state averages. The national average is 19.9 metric tons, and the state of Ohio is 21.2. So we are the lowest in the state of Ohio when it comes to our per capita carbon emissions, as well as performing very well nationally. So just to make you aware. Couple things as a reminder to anyone who is viewing us tonight, and for those of you, for my council members up there, we have the Halloween block party that's coming at us quickly. That Court Street will be closed. There will be a number of different events taking place between 1 and 5 p.m. on Court Street, all of which are family-friendly events. There will also be the Honey for the Heart Parade, which will be from 5 to 6 p.m., and then what is being called the adult block party, where we have one stage on Court Street. That'll be taking place from 6 to 10 p.m. And at 10 p.m., the stage will shut down and we will begin the reopening process of Court Street and getting traffic flowing again. I also have the calendar of events that came to me from the Athens Convention and Visitors Bureau, and that is for the holiday events. The tree lighting ceremony and opening night will be December 2nd between 6 and 8 p.m., where Santa arrives and sleigh rides, and I guess it's wagon rides, no snow at that time of year. Then there's the all-season events with the Santa's house. There's kids' films at the Athena, live music, and those will be Thursdays between 6 and 8 p.m. on December 8th, 15th, and 22nd, and Saturdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on December 10th and 17th. So just getting that in front of council. I have a really great piece of news to share with council. I think I'd mentioned to you that the National League of Cities Race Equity and Leadership has created a new Race Equity and Leadership Institute. Our new director DEIA coordinator, Lacey Rogers, I asked for her to apply for the city to be one of the charter members of this institute. We just recently got word back that we were selected as one of 8 or 9 communities. We will be accompanied by Akron, Ohio, Bernicia, California, Brentwood, Maryland, Columbus, Ohio, Harrisonburg, Virginia, Helena, Montana, St. Louis, Missouri, South San Francisco, California, and Waco, Texas. So we're in great company, especially for a city our size, to where Council Member McCary, Lacey Rogers, and myself will be going out prior to the NLC the City Summit, which is taking place in mid-November, to go through 2 days of training, where we'll be going through training throughout the entire year. The last thing to share with council is that I provided to President Nisley 2 documents that she will share with council, because we're rapidly approaching the time to where we're going to have to, through committee, start the conversation on the 2023 budget. What you'll be seeing are the 2 things that council passes. One is a document that has the transaction classes and the funding associated with those, as well as the income tax mix and how we're going to change that slightly, hopefully with your approval, change that slightly this year, for 2023. So, President Nisley, that's all I have.
Thank you. Before we proceed with our ordinances for third reading, and I do want to do a double check. I don't believe the treasurer is here, although he submitted his report, I know, and I don't think the auditor is here. But I want to go back to the communications that the Mayor Patterson referred to briefly, and that was the email and accompanying draft resolution from the Citizens for Bodily Autonomy. And I do want to let folks know, I let a few of the participants who are in the audience know before the meeting started, but there has been a communication, and I thought you all should know before you wait through the council meeting. We will be more than happy. We always have that opportunity at the end of the meeting for people to make comment on items that are not on the agenda. And as I understand from your email, several of you are intending to speak. I do want to warn you, though, that we're not going to have a discussion tonight, that our rules of council call for when there is a draft resolution, it comes before committee and it is reviewed by the law director, and neither of those has happened yet. We hope to have that happen within a week or two, but I did want to warn you that, or not warn you, but just caution you that we're not going to have a full discussion tonight. It will happen when it comes to committee as our normal procedure. So thank you. We'll move to ordinances for third reading. Ordinance 11322, this is an ordinance granting a special use permit to the Dairy Barn Arts Center to replace an existing directional sign located at the corner of Richland Avenue and Dairy Lane in the city right-of-way, and is introduced by Councilmember Grace.
Thank you, President Isley. I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance 11322.
Second.
Thank you. And this is something that has been discussed in several different meetings here in committee and then at first reading. This is just granting the special use permit to allow the Dairy Barn Arts Center to place a sign in the city's right-of-way. And this will be a replacement sign there at the intersection of Dairy Lane and Richland Avenue. And we do have particular language contained in section 2 restricting the size of the sign and also specifying that it is in an open space zone, so is therefore not subject to the sign regulation sizes that are in other areas of the city.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from council members, administration, or members of our audience? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. We now have ordinances for second reading, and what is required by law is that we do have the second reading. I read through the title, and unless there is a motion to suspend or amend, then we usually move on to the reading of the next. So you're going to hear me reading titles for a few minutes. 12222 is an ordinance amending Ordinance 822, authorizing preliminary engineering services for the Uptown Improvements Project number 329, introduced by Councilmember Reisner. And if no comments or questions, we will move on to 12322. This is an ordinance closing a portion of East State Street on Saturday, December 31st, 2022, and Sunday, January 1st, 2023, for the New Year's Eve Passion Works Studio Community Festival, introduced by Councilmember Reisner. And if no comments or questions, we'll move on to 12422. This is an ordinance suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code Section 13.04.1, unnecessary noise, to accommodate the New Year's Eve Passion Works Studio Community Festival, introduced by Councilmember Reisner. And if no comments or question, we'll move on to the third one relating to this. This is an ordinance suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code Chapter 11.04, vending, peddling, and soliciting to allow vending in a designated area on December 31st, 2022, and January 1st, 2023, during the New Year's Eve Passion Works Studio Community Festival, introduced by Councilmember Reisner. 12622 is an ordinance amending Athens Ordinance 9022, authorizing construction and construction engineering for the water treatment plant, salt storage, roof slab, and beam replacement project number 354, and that's introduced by Councilmember McCary. And I do see from our clerk of council an indication that we do need to suspend this tonight, Councilmember McCary. because we need to sign the contract in October in order to begin the work in November. So those would be the reasons for your suspension.
Okay. Then I would like to move that we suspend the rules for 12622 so that we can get under contract for this repair as soon as possible.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second for suspending the rules in order to sign the contract in time. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The rules have been suspended, Councilmember McCary. And now we'll have a motion to approve.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and move that we approved 12622.
Second.
As we've heard from prior discussions, this is an essential repair for the safety and quality of our water. So we have a need to increase the cost for this repair. I'll read from the ordinance. This is Section 1. Sections 2 and 3 of Ordinance 9022 are hereby amended to read as follows. Section 2, the 2022 Appropriation Ordinance 150-21 is hereby amended by appropriating from the unappropriated balance the sum of $345,000 to Water Fund 740, Transaction Class 500, and increasing the total appropriations by said amounts. Section 3, the Service Safety Director is hereby authorized to expend up to $365,000 from Water Fund 740, Transaction Class 500, capturing all costs to date for said project number 354. And this ordinance will be in effect in full force upon its passage and approval by the mayor. I believe I just see perhaps one typographical error in that last line should not be listed under Section 2, if I'm not mistaken. That would be Section 4. But I think that's just a clerical error.
No, that's okay. That's Section 1 and 2 are the major headers.
Great.
And then, so it's okay. Yeah. It's just, I've been confused by that. Thank you for pointing that out then. All right, we have a motion and second for approval of 12622, and do we have any comments or questions? Councilmember Swank.
Question. Originally, we were going to spend $235,000. I guess this would be a question for Mr. Chicky. Is that a figure that we came up with based on an engineering study? Where did that figure come from?
Yeah, it is based on an engineering study and a probable cost of replacement of that.
Okay, so that's fine. The amount we're asking for today is 46% more than that. Why is it off such a significant amount of money?
I'll defer to the mayor for that.
Yeah, when the contractor got in and looked at it, they realized there's a lot of handwork that's going into the cribbing because we are basically creating a roof for this thing, which is a concrete slab, that is able to maintain the weight of the trucks that are driving in to deliver the salt. So when they realized that, and we realized it as well, that there's a lot more handwork that actually has to go in as opposed to mechanical work, something that a heavy piece of equipment can handle. They're going to have to get in the salt pits themselves to construct, like I said, the cribbing.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions or comments from our council members, administration, or our audience? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. 12722 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into or to extend the agreement with the Board of Athens County Commissioners for the purpose of obtaining the services of the Public Defender's Office through December 31st, 2023. That's introduced by Councilmember Crowell. And if no questions or comments, we will move on to 12822. This is an ordinance amending the 2022 appropriation ordinance, introduced by Councilmember Crowell. And if no questions or comments on this one, we will move to 12922, an ordinance amending Athens City Code Title 29, Housing Regulations, Chapter 29.03, Rental Dwelling, Short-Term Rental, and Housing Permit, Section 29.03.01, Rental Permit Required, introduced by Councilmember Grace. If no questions or comments, we will turn to 13022. This is an ordinance amending Ordinance 13417 to rezone the Madison Heights minor subdivision, property located on the corner of East State Street and Madison Avenue, introduced by Councilmember Grace. And if no questions or comments, we'll move on to 13122, an ordinance providing for the issuance of $300,000 of notes by the City of Athens, Ohio, in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of renewing notes previously issued for the purpose of paying part of the costs of acquiring a new fire truck and related equipment and declaring an emergency, introduced by Councilmember Crowell. We'll now move on. We have 3 ordinances for first reading. 13222 is an ordinance funding a transformer upgrade by American Electric Power to provide solar power at the city's wastewater treatment plant and is introduced by Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. After having heard the mayor talk about our metric tons of equivalent carbon responsibilities, it's good that we can talk here about this transformer upgrade as part of our solar project for the city. So I'm going to go ahead and read through this. Whereas American Electric Power has agreed to upgrade its transformer at the wastewater treatment plant, and whereas the city will pursue disbursement of funds through the Southeast Ohio Public Energy Council from the city's enacted carbon fee for solar projects to cover the cost of said transformer. Section 1, Athens City Council does hereby authorize the funding of a transformer upgrade by AEP to provide solar power at the city's wastewater treatment plant. Section 2, the 2022 Appropriation Ordinance 150-21 is hereby amended by appropriating from the unappropriated balance the sum of $75,000 to sewer plant fund and increasing the total appropriations by said amount to cover AEP transformer. Section 3, the city auditor is hereby directed to receipt reimbursed SOPEC funds from the city's enacted carbon fee for solar projects into Sewer Fund 750. So we will be pursuing the reimbursement from the carbon fee SOPEC funds that selected residents who have opted into this program pay that fee on their electric bills. And we will be then paying for this new transformer, which is needed for the new solar project, out of the sewer plant fund, and then the reimbursement will be going to that fund. Thank you, President Isley.
Thank you, President, or Councilmember Crowell.
Yes, please.
Almost gave away my job. 13322 is an ordinance. Oh, yes. Was there a comment or question?
Yeah, question.
Yes.
At-
Councilmember
At
Swank.
this point in time, how much money is in that carbon fee fund? A ballpark?
Yeah, Councilmember Swank, it generates approximately, and I say that approximately, $100,000 a year. I believe that there is probably 150, somewhere between $150,000 to $200,000 in there currently.
So we'll still have a substantial amount left in there after this.
We will, and
Yeah.
we'll continue to kind of escrow that, save in that account, which we can do for other projects or possibly going towards the 2.5 megawatt solar array.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions or comments? We'll move on to 13322. This is an ordinance amending Ordinance 5022, authorizing the Service Safety Director to accept bids where necessary and enter into contract for replacement of the community center roof. This is Project 353, introduced by Councilmember Crowell.
Thank you, President Isley. This also is related to the previous ordinance in that part of our solar project will have solar panels on the roof of the community center. Also connected to an earlier discussion about developing at Madison Heights. It's difficult to ascertain costs for projects in the current construction climate, and as discussed at committee, the new roof for the community center is more expensive than initially planned, and this ordinance will ensure that we have the money for the community center roof. And it also, as part of that project, puts the racks on the roof that are necessary for the solar panels that will be installed there. And I'm going to go ahead and read Section 2 of this ordinance. The 2022 appropriation ordinance, 150-21, is hereby amended by appropriating from the unappropriated balance the following sums. $5,000 to Community Center Phase 2 Fund 272, $115,900 to the Arts, Parks, and Recreation Income Tax Fund 273, and $67,100 to Capital Improvements Fund. And then on Section 3, the Service Safety Director is further authorized to expend up to $500,000 as follows. $317,000 from Community Center Phase 2 Fund 272, $115,900 from Arts, Parks, and Recreation Income Tax Fund 273, $67,100 from Capital Improvements Fund 580. Thank you, President Isley.
Thank you, Councilmember Crowell. Any comments or questions? Councilmember Swank?
I have a question very similar to one I asked a few moments ago. I assume we employed or utilized a design firm engineering for this?
That's correct.
And
It's multi-part though. So we have the roof replacement portion, which is something that we've needed to do, and that's being handled by BDT. But the solar racking portion has been reviewed by the engineers from Third Sun Kokosing, and they have to work in tandem for it to work. So as they've developed this more soundly, there have been some cost increases since we originally estimated it back in March.
Would you say those increases came primarily from one provider or the other?
Primarily from the roofing. The membrane expense is much higher than it was 6 months ago.
Well, the reason I ask, and we heard last week that we got one bid on the pickleball and tennis courts that was 86% above the engineering bids or engineering estimates. We seem to develop a pattern here of being significantly off. And I'm wondering, has that been talked about, and is that raising any concerns? We're constantly coming back and not asking for pennies or dimes or quarters, but in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I've had several members of the citizenry ask me, how can the engineer be that far off?
Well, each project has a different team assembled for it that's specific to the type of work that's being done. I can't speak necessarily for the pickleball and tennis court project and how the estimation went with that, but for the roofing project, this is something that BDT does on a pretty regular basis. The only challenging part is determining the number of penetrations needed for the roof racking to receive solar. So we haven't bid this out yet. We intend to bid this within the week and get that out there, but as far as the cost estimate, that's based on other similar sized projects. You know, roofs are redone on a regular basis all over. So there's some, in my opinion, there's good information that's out there related to the cost estimates. I couldn't speak to the pickleball or tennis though.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Yes, Councilmember Spielness.
Thank you. So my concern is this is going to be a 25-year roof, as I understand it, and I'm curious about, since you said they had to work in tandem and whatnot, so what's the shelf life, if you will, of the solar part of it? Will that outlive the roof or vice versa? And then what happens?
That's a really good question. So the roof estimate would be approximately 25 years. The solar panels are rated for 30 plus years. That's speculative for both parts, but that's our best estimate for how long each should last apart. The roof racking portion, those penetrations, for them to be done in tandem, it ensures that we don't have leaking issues. We re-roof at the same time that we put those penetrations in, and we're not, punching holes into a brand new roof right after we do that. So it makes sense to put the penetrations in at the exact same time that we're doing the roofing.
Sure.
And it would be by the roofing contractor would be installing those penetrations, and it would be under their warranty for each one of those.
Mayor Patterson.
Just to add to what Director Chicky was mentioning, given that these solar panels are going to be on the southerly facing portion of that roof with a fiber membrane roof, one of the harshest elements that this type of roofing experiences is direct sun. Of course, the other elements as well. And so we anticipate that the solar panels may actually help extend the life of that rubberized or membrane surface that will be the re-roofed portion. And since the direct sun is going to be coming at the solar panels as opposed to the membrane itself, that may help us extend the life of that roof.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll move on to ordinance 13422. This is an ordinance amending ordinance 3222, authorizing the mayor to extend the agreement with Sunday Creek Horizons, a consulting firm, to continue work on a remote work system for the city of Athens. This is introduced by Councilmember Grace.
Thank you, President Nicely. And this is an ordinance that does just what the title says. It authorizes the extension of our contract, the city's contract with Sunday Creek Horizons. And all members of council received a detailed report from Sunday Creek Horizons as to their work to date, as well as the scope of work for continuing. And I believe that Sunday Creek Horizons has done a really excellent job in working with the city to find funding and opportunities for the Armory building. And I think that this has been a good relationship, and this contract will allow that to continue to the end of this calendar year. And the details are that the expenditure is now up to $102,500, and with $22,500 from the general fund and $80,000 from the American Rescue Act Fund, or Recovery Act, excuse me. And those are the pertinent details of this ordinance.
Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Councilmember Grace. We'll now move on to announcements and other business. And I have my usual that we will be having a committee meeting next week, so if committee chairs or city administration have any agenda items, that they please get them to Clerk of Council Debbie Walker by Wednesday, so that we can prepare the materials and post them online in adequate time. And are there any other announcements from folks before we move on to these final motions? If not, we have a motion to accept the September 2022 financial reports. And if I could have a motion for accepting those.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Those reports have been accepted. The other reports that we have are the credit card transactions for September. So if I could have a motion to accept those.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second for accepting the credit card transactions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries. And the other item that we have under announcements and other business is the appointment to the Athens Community Relations Commission of Kristen Nichols. And I believe Councilmember McCary is handling the details for that.
Yes, I would like to move that we invite Kristen Nichols to join the Athens Community Relations Commission.
Seconded.
Thank you. Dr. Nichols has a PhD in psychology and a master's in organizational management and leadership. She's also the chair of the diversity committee for the Ohio Psychiatric or Psychological Association. She strives to understand how privilege and power impact mental well-being and would be a strong addition to the Community Relations Commission.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and second for Dr. Nichols' approval to appointment to the committee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, we welcome Dr. Nichols volunteering for us. We do have an opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items and city services that were not on the agenda. And knowing that a number of people are here tonight for the Citizens for Bodily Autonomy, is there anybody who wants to have the opportunity to speak who is not speaking on that topic? So that they have the opportunity to speak first. Okay. All right, thank you. And I will ask, as I mentioned briefly before our meeting started, we will not be getting involved in discussion of this tonight because our rules of council call for any proposed resolution needs to come through a council committee first. And so we know that we have received, and we thank you very much for the work on that, the proposed resolution, but it does need review by the law director and then coming forth before committee. If several of you want to make a comment tonight, you have 3 minutes. And all I ask is that you give your name and address, and if you're representing a group or just representing yourself. So is there anyone wanting to speak tonight? Okay, yes.
Hello, my name is Jenna Kiefer, and I live at 31 Grosvenor. A lot of you guys know me as one of the students that works back there for TGC. I help stream a lot of the city council meetings, a lot of the other separate committee meetings, and a lot more than that. But today I am taking off my hat for a second as a city employee, and I feel it is necessary for me to speak as a woman and somebody who has a uterus. So I'm exhausted with having to prove myself to the people who make decisions for me about my body. I'm exhausted with having to worry about the mental and physical safety of my friends and family. I'm exhausted and I am scared of my rage. I'm a student, a daughter, a sister, a friend, a journalist, an activist. I cannot keep fighting for my own bodily autonomy. I should be focusing on my academics and finishing my junior year of college. I should be enjoying my youth and going out with my friends, but instead I am writing this speech to beg you all to realize the reality of my situation and of our situation. All the metaphors have been written and all of the chants have been recited and all of the stories have been told, and I fear that my voice will be lost in the void of desperate pleads. It is nobody's business what I do with my body, what she does with her body, what he does with his body, what they do with their body. I'm not the property of the state, yet I feel like I am being regulated as if I am. Why am I being denied the right to do what might help me survive? Moreover, why do you care? Why do you care about the people? Why don't you care about the people dying from giving birth when their bodies and brains are not prepared for such a physical act? Why do you not care about the already overflowing, underpaid, and overworked foster care systems? Why do you not care about us? Because if you did, you would do something, and you haven't done enough yet. Not yet. My name is Jenna Kiefer. I live at 31 Grosvenor. I work for TGC in the city building. I am a student, a daughter, a sister, a friend, a woman, and I am exhausted. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else that's wanting to speak tonight? Yes. And if you could give us your name and address, and you'll have up to 3 minutes.
My name is Reese Wyant, but I'll be reading something written by Ari Faber, who is not able to be here today. They live on Meadow Lane in Athens. As you know, on June 24th, 2022, the United States Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, declaring that the constitutional right to abortion no longer exists. As a result, abortion rights were rolled back in nearly half of the states immediately, with more restrictions likely to follow. For all practical purposes, abortion will not be available in large swaths of the country. On July 11th, 2019, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine signed into law Senate Bill 23, criminalizing abortion with no exception for rape or incest after the detection of a fetal heartbeat at the felony level with a sentence of up to 1 year in prison. This law took effect shortly after the Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. Since Senate Bill 23, at least 5 Ohio cities, including Cleveland, Cincinnati, Columbus, Dayton, and Lakewood, have responded to this willful, egregious action with resolutions asserting their municipalities will protect reproductive rights and body autonomy. Our group, Athenians for Bodily Autonomy, approached City Council in August expressing the will of the Athens community to protect the basic rights of those who seek reproductive health, to protect those who offer such care, and those individuals exercising their free speech to share information about reproductive options and body autonomy. There is currently a stay on the abortion ban thanks to Judge Christian Jenkins in Cincinnati, who issued an injunction against the law. Judge Jenkins agreed the law put undue burden on pregnant individuals. Abortion up to 22 weeks gestation is again legal in Ohio, but only until the case is heard by the Supreme Court of Ohio. We do not believe this is a time to be complacent on this issue. We are asking Athens City Council, Law Director Eliason, and Mayor Patterson to act now. Please adopt a referendum affirming Athens' commitment to individuals' rights to control their own bodies, and let it be declared that we do not want our law enforcement resources allocated to the persecution of our citizens who choose modern science and reproductive health care. You have been provided with our proposal for a referendum Athens could adopt immediately, as well as a copy of the language passed by Columbus City Council. We are hopeful that you will act on this critical opportunity for our community to set precedents that we will protect a person's right to control their own sovereign bodies, that all who seek these basic rights will find sanctuary here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Louise Stewart. I'm at 18 North College Street. I'm a member of Athenians for Bodily Autonomy, and I don't want to be here right now. I'm going to be pulling all-nighters this week trying to get all that I need to get done as a student and employee of Ohio University, but I'm here because I and my students and my colleagues and my neighbors and friends no longer have the privilege of pouring all our focus and energy into our studies or climbing up career ladders that'll just be knocked out from under us by criminal charges or by pregnancies we literally cannot afford. I'm here today to beg you as elected officials to advocate for our rights to self-determination. Join the 8 other cities and towns in Ohio, actually, Dayton, Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Bowling Green, Lakewood, Toledo, and Worthington, whose city councils have passed resolutions and ordinances and made statements and action plans to protect abortion patients, providers, practical support networks, and advocates from criminalization. Do it now while abortion is once again legal. Speak up for us now while we still have freedom of speech regarding abortion. This freedom is in jeopardy. I'm not sure if you're aware, but 3 weeks ago, faculty and staff at the University of Idaho received an email from their employer's lawyers explaining that in accordance with the state's new abortion ban, they're now prohibited, on or off the clock, from doing or saying anything that could be construed as, quote, promoting abortion, or even, quote, promoting services for the prevention of conception. So not even at the student health clinic on campus can staff at the University of Idaho now offer birth control or information about Plan B, or let alone an abortion. Even condoms can only be spoken of in Idaho as devices to prevent disease, not pregnancy. Employees who are found to violate this new gag order in Idaho risk fines, firing, permanent bans from all state employment, felony convictions, and prison time. It won't be long until laws like this are ruining lives here in Athens. In Ohio, House Bill 480 would criminalize aiding and abetting abortion, and House Bill 598 would criminalize promoting abortion, or advertising or possessing anything that induces miscarriage. I understand the risks that I take in exercising freedoms that are under attack, and I urge you leaders to take these risks with us. We aren't asking for much. All I want is the same degree of freedom, the same rights to self-determination, the same sovereignty over my own body and life as my mother enjoyed throughout all of her reproductive years. It's not fair, and it's not right for our elders in power to sit back silently and let this happen to us. You need to speak up now against authoritarianism. You need to let us know what the plan is for when they come for us, when they come to lock us away for doing exactly what you were allowed to do all your life. Thank you.
I've been sitting down too long. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Koya. I'm with the community, Ohio Community Bill of Rights group from Athens. We passed the Clean Watershed Protection Act here, worked on TACA, the Athens Cannabis Ordinance. So I'm familiar with the procedure, and I'm happy to help the Athens Body Autonomy Group get their letter into the hands of all of you council members this week. I hope you'll have time to review the information that was provided, and I hope that one of you guys, maybe two of you at least, can take it up as bring this issue in front of council and get this law passed, or get something on the books, and we can join the rest of the civilized cities here in Ohio that recognize that local control of our own bodies is very much a constitutional right, and that these rights should not be infringed, and when they are infringed, we need to reform and abolish those rights, those laws that are unconstitutional. So, thank you for your time. We look forward to having this issue introduced by one of you in the very near future. Thanks.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak tonight? Okay. Thank you. We thank you for taking the time to come here and express your opinions. I know sometimes it's not very comfortable, but we do honor and respect that. And do know that Councilmember Grace has met with the group before and is continuing to work with them. So it's not falling on deaf ears. We are listening. So thank you very much. With that, I'll make a motion, or if I would accept a motion to adjourn. I can't make the motion.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and second for adjourning. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Our meeting is adjourned for tonight at 7:58, and we will see